Hello and welcome to Two Therapists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Harrison Davis.
And I'm Dr. Aisha Dickerson.
Two Therapists and a Microphone is a show about mental health, relationships, and social issues that personally affect you. We broadcast live every Monday evening at 7 o'clock p.m. on the Our Black Media Network. Monday is our new day.
Yeah. We are two licensed psychotherapists with decades of clinical experience, and we still want to hear from you. We want you to tell us about the situations or dilemmas that you're going through. And you can do that by visiting our website, www.twotherapists.com, and click on Ask Two Therapists at the top of the page.
Absolutely, because we guys want to hear from you. We got a treat today, as a matter of fact. But I
Hmm.
want to start off by saying Happy New Year to
People still, is it
everybody.
not too late to say it? Someone asked me that yesterday. Are we still saying Happy New
I'm
Year?
gonna say it. I'm gonna say
Okay.
it.
Happy New
Because
Year.
it's a new year. I'm happy to be here. And some of us we haven't seen you guys since mid December.
Yeah.
And I've talked to you a few times, Aisha, but do
Hmm.
want to wish you and everyone else a happy new year. I hope it's off to a great start
Yeah.
for you. And to start the show off with, it's a new year. I often talk with people about New Year's resolutions or personal commitments or themes for the new year. What can you tell us about your theme or resolutions or commitments?
I'll say my theme is, and I'm just coming up with this right now, try. Because I'm not
Okay.
committing to anything really. But I'll say, I mean, I'm not committing to anything or anybody, but I am
Okay.
trying a lot of different things lately. So, I've learned some new skills. I've been taking some new classes.
Look at you.
And so, that's gonna be my thing. Just try. I might fail, probably not, because I'm pretty good at most
Don't
things.
say that. Why would you
I'm gonna
say
try.
that?
I'm gonna try.
So this is news for me. So you're gonna loosen up on some commitments,
Hmm.
and I think we talked about this before. You're not going to overextend yourself.
Right.
Is something that you brought up before in the past, and you're gonna try new things. So you're becoming more adventurous.
Yeah. And learning things about myself. I started playing golf. I knew I was ambidextrous, but now I mean I have a set of right-handed clubs and a set of left-handed clubs. I'm just
Really,
great with both hands. I'm just learning so
you
much
like
about myself.
golf?
I do so far.
I'm glad you do. I found it incredibly boring. After an hour, I'm done. We got how many hours to go?
Till
It's
you
not for me.
finish.
But I'm glad you found something new.
So,
So
what about
my
you, Harrison? What is
my
your word or your goal or whatever you want to call it? What you
so
got
it's so
going on?
funny. I was in a training thing the other last week or so, and that came up. And I hadn't really thought about it, and we all had to share, our theme for the year. I thought it was a great question, and had to come up with a word. I got two words:
Okay.
peace and resilient.
Okay.
They go
Okay.
hand in hand. I
Do
tell you,
they?
ain't nothing like peace, holding on to it, recognizing it, making it a part of you, carrying the spirit of peace, being in a peaceful environment. I'm gonna hold on to that all year long.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Hold
And
on
in
to it
order
after that too. Have your peace forever.
and so in order to do that, what I shared was that you have to be resilient.
Okay.
Sometimes you got to be tough minded and you got to bounce back.
Hmm.
Things are going to happen. Not every day is going to be a sunny day, 80 degrees, nice weather. Sometimes those dark, rainy clouds come, and whatever something happens, you got to bounce back up. You can't stay down for too long. And so those are my two themes for the
I like
year.
that.
I
Yeah.
think I'm going to annoy people for the next 11 and a half months about that because I am serious about that.
I'm
It's a
with you,
new
and I
year. I
like
like
that.
to think.
Resilience. Just look forward to tomorrow. I don't know. I know you don't listen to as much rap music as I do, but there's this
Mhm.
female rapper called Glorilla, and she has a song. I'm gonna send it to you later. She has a
Okay.
song called Tomorrow, where she talks about that every day the sun won't shine, but that's why I love tomorrow.
I
And then
like
she
that.
says a whole lot of other stuff that I
I bet
won't be
she
able to
does
say
with a
on here.
name like
But
Glorilla.
she's from Memphis.
I know about Memphis, but I'm gonna go look for that. So that is good that we all have our not resolutions, but themes for the
Yeah.
year. That sort of loosens it up a little bit because we are starting off a new year and our new show, our new season of Two Therapists on a Microphone as we took a little break. And today we have a show focused on an email that we got from one of the listeners, as a matter of fact. She needs some help with something. And I decided that this week we're going to talk about raising Black boys to be Black men. And so, Aisha, if you will, I know you have a copy.
I do. I have it pulled up here. So I'm going to call her Kay, just to protect her and her name. So Kay is about 38 years old in Atlanta, Georgia. And she says, I have a son who graduated from high school a year late and is not prepared to be an adult. He throws temper tantrums literally when he doesn't get what he wants and tries to make me feel guilty. He doesn't know how to cook and would rather go hungry than prepare himself or ask me to DoorDash him something. He
Mm,
does have a job, but does not manage his money at all and only uses it to buy clothes and shoes or going out. I recently asked him to live with my cousin, who's male, but not sure what else I can do to help him be a man.
mm. Ooh.
So, although there wasn't exactly a question, I'm assuming the question is, how do I help my young adult son be a man?
Yeah, I heard a woman crying out for some help.
Hmm.
Uh, Sounds like she's at her limit and not quite sure what to do next. And as you and I talked before the show about the email, I'm going to assume that Kay is a single mom because she did not mention
Right.
a husband. So that's just an assumption on my part. But when you read it the first time, Aisha, what did you think?
I had an assumption that there's also an absent father
Yeah.
because I've heard plenty of people, in fact, just last week, say, I'm sending them to live with this father. And the last sentence that I read there was about sending him to live with a male cousin. So the father w- appears to not be an option. I don't know what the reason is, but I will also maybe come to the conclusion that that has a little bit to do with how this young man is acting, or better yet, not acting. And I wonder what else happened earlier in this childhood. Was father around? Did father pass away? Did father
Yep.
disappear? And I also saw mom said that she had some guilt. Maybe let me see if I can find.
Okay.
Oh,
He was trying to,
he was trying to make her feel guilty.
yeah, for his tantrums when he doesn't get what he wants and
Hmm.
tries to make me feel guilty. There's a lot in this email. So I want us to first talk about, our reaction first,
Hmm.
and it sounds like we both had the same assumption. The father may not be in the house for whatever reason. He could have died. He could have left. The mom could have pushed him out. I don't know. But he wasn't mentioned in the letter. And so my first reaction is, woof, 18, 19 years, maybe 20.
Hmm.
And this is what we got. This is the level of interaction we get. And I'm thinking about who is responsible for this. And I'm conflicted about that.
Yeah.
As a parent, I understand the need to be there to guide your child, uh, to help them correct their mistakes. And as you've mentioned to me before, Aisha, things that your child is doing within the house and how they interact with you, it may not work when they're out in the public.
Right.
Especially you told me that, and we want to make sure that whatever they do within the household as far as engagement, they do it outside the household. There's always going to be respect. But here we are. What the hell do you do with a um 19, 20-year old? That was my first reaction before we get into the meat of it.
Right. So let's assume, and I don't think I can really assume, but I'm going to assume that perhaps this is an African American family. And with that, because when I first hear it, it sounds like something that I've heard from some Caucasian families I've worked with.
Yep.
And we will refer to this as failure to launch,
Yep.
meaning that your child has not been able to leave the house. Around age 18, 19, 20, children leave the home to go to college,
Or
go to the
military.
military, or just get a job and leave. I have a friend who says he told his sons that something about they either can have books or boots. You going to college or you going to the military, but you're not going to be able to stay here.
Yep.
So my question is, what precedent was set in the beginning? Like, this is something I've been talking to, and I have girls that I've been talking
And I
to
have
my
a
children
daughter.
about since they were little. Like, get it together, because I mean, you won't be living here. Now, granted, if something happens, I would, but they don't
But you're
have.
preparing them.
Right, exactly. Be prepared to leave in a timely fashion. And also, I don't make my home so comfortable that they want to stay forever. I mean, at some point, my 17-year-old, I can't wait to leave. And I'm like, I can't wait either.
I was
But
like that too.
don't let home be so comfortable that that the child wants to be there, and just stay with his mom forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't normalize a young adult staying there for too long, not being productive, especially
Hmm.
a guy, And I know it sounds sexist, but
Uh-oh.
there's this saying that I've heard over and over, and I too I'm assuming that the person who wrote the email to is black, African American, just because of our audience that's out there. But
Hmm.
you're right, this can happen with anybody. We're just going to put a black context around it. But the thing that I've heard, women raise their daughters and they keep their sons is the thing
Okay.
that I've heard. How I'm
Hmm.
interpreting that, and I have seen it with some of my clients, women, single women, black women in particular, will raise their daughters to be efficient, productive, to take care of themselves, independent. And for some reason, their sons, the counterparts, they don't know how to do all of that. They depend on their mom a great deal, and the mom do things with a lot of zeal for their sons. So much so that it appears that they're not ready for young adulthood. I have
Hmm.
talked to clients like that. I've tried to understand the rationale behind it. Why couldn't you give your son the same type of energy and attention and guidance that you gave your daughter? Because she's ready.
Hmm.
She gets her driver's license. She's ready for college. She moved herself into college. And when the son, 2 years later, didn't know what he's going to do, senior in high school, no driver's license, never had a part time job. He plays that little video game in his room. And the mom and dad looking at me like, what are we going to do? So that was something I wanted to mention, whether or not this confirms that saying that I've heard before, that single women raise the girls and they keep their sons.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
Well, so of course, we I don't have any sons, but what I have heard from my friends who do is that there's also this element of fear. If I
Really?
put him out of the home, who not just who will take care of him,
Hmm.
but if he's homeless on the streets or if he's having to do a little extra hustling, will the police come
Yep.
after him? Will landlords treat him fairly? Will some woman take advantage of him? It's just fear
But why aren't
surrounding
those
who will take
fears
him.
there for the daughters who go off to college, who do
Mhm.
their own thing? But it seems as though they're much more comfortable and they prepared the daughters. But what the hell did you do with the son?
Well, now I've seen plenty of daughters who aren't prepared as well, but I will say that there is a increase in sons who aren't prepared these days, because in addition to having that fear, We as people of color make more money than we used to. We're more successful than we used to be, and we're giving our kids a lot more than maybe
I agree with that.
we were given.
Yep.
So, whereas you may have had to go to college because you wanted to get out of the hood or out of the slums,
Yep.
some of these people don't have to do that. I mean, when you live in a three-story home with a swimming pool, and I have a friend who was saying that about her child. She said they want to go to school close by and stay at home. They're
Mm.
comfortable at home. I got my own room and bathroom and a pool, and I
Why?
mean,
Why leave?
I'm safe in the gated community. Why would I want to go to
I
college and
see.
be in danger?
I see. You just put a new twist on it. I didn't realize. It's quite possible that the mom is doing very well for herself
Hmm.
and creating an environment that is the son is benefiting from, and he doesn't want to leave because of the luxury, that he has within the household. But now she wants him to get the hell out, or at least stop throwing temper tantrums and be
Well,
a little bit.
she said he would rather starve than fix himself something to eat. I would allow her. You gonna starve then? In my house, you gonna starve.
I think I would do that to my 18, 19-year-old son if I had one. I have a daughter, but
Mhm.
if I had a son that age, oh yeah, you don't, I'm not buying you food, but I would have done a hell of a lot to prepare him for the real world. But what I'm hearing from you is that sometimes as parents, we have more concerns
Mhm.
about our black sons going out there to the world and some of the risks that are out there that are going to meet them.
Yeah, and I also wonder what is her fear concerning asserting herself when it comes to her son. I heard that he throws tantrums. Is it violent? Is it
Mm,
scary? Because what I do know about kids in their checking accounts is before a certain age, they can't even get a checking account without you. So
yep,
my
that's right.
kids' checking accounts, like I can see, I'm going to have access to them until they're at least 24. And I have a child who works and she
Mhm.
makes money and she also wants to spend her money on clothes and shoes and
Yep.
going out. However, without even talking to her, she knows that as soon as her paycheck goes in, there's a certain amount that I'm transferring from her account to my account to pay for a portion of her cell phone bill and her car insurance.
Okay.
You have responsibilities. Yes, now what she doesn't know is I just take that money and I put it in her savings account. But she
Mm.
knows that she has an obligation,
Responsibilities.
right?
Yep. Yep.
You
Yep.
are obligated to pay a portion of what you cost this household. So budget based on whatever money you already know I'm going to take out of your account every month.
So do you believe this mom did that?
It doesn't sound like she does. She says that he has a job and he spends all of his money on certain stuff. It doesn't sound like any of those are bills. So SK Harris says, I've encouraged my kids to go to college or the military. I've told them if they fall on hard times, they're welcome to come back home to get on their feet. So
Absolutely.
that's nice. I mean,
Uh,
that's
that's a parent. But
mhm.
the question is, how are we going to prepare them? As I have grown more concerned about our young black men, I'm talking about the ones in their 20s, whether they went to college or not, and that maturity level that is there, and whether or not they have been prepared to go out there into the real world and not call their mom all the time. So SK Harris says again, I have concerns with all of my kids. However, I have to trust and I have raised them correctly. All right.
Mhm.
And they will use what I have taught them in the world. I hope so, sister. I hope so. Because we got an email from a woman who appears to be struggling. And so Dr. Aisha and I have been talking about our initial reaction and putting some theories around this in the context. I too, like you, what you mentioned earlier about is there fear surrounding her behavior. All the black women I know, um, I mean, they can hand it down to
Well,
their kids,
but you remember that video we had a few months back with the kid who got mad and tore the whole apartment up.
and that was like a
So it's them.
preteen.
And there was that maybe a couple of years ago, you and I did one about it was a young man who shot his sister and mom because they turned off the Wi-Fi or something to his Xbox and he just
Wow.
killed everybody. So this was a black family as well. So my other thought surrounding this is sometimes you have to let your children suffer. in order for them to learn something. Like, I'm not just talking about him not eating, but I'm thinking about when I was in college. Of course, things go wrong. I had some, I say, issues with grades because I was kicking it super hard, and my
Weren't we
mom.
all?
But my mom made it clear, if I lost my scholarship, it wasn't, well, you're gonna have to come home. It was like, oh, I guess you're gonna have to look into student loans or getting
Oh,
a
you had a
job.
scholarship.
Right.
My
But her thing was, you're going to try everything possible to fix your own failure
Yeah.
before you have the option to come back home. And I never went home. I just kept
Lucky
figuring it out
you.
for
Same
myself.
situation. Went to college, had a great time. Oh my God.
I'd do it
Freshman,
all over again. I sure
sophomore
would.
year. I swear, sophomore year, my second year is a blur. Um, but after some D's, maybe a F or two, and a whole bunch of C's, after that third year, my sister had entered college. And my parents told me we need to focus on your sister. I'm paraphrasing. And you ain't done what we thought you were going to do. So I had to leave my first college of choice after 3 years, go back home and go to Georgia State University, which at the time was a lot different than it is now. It was just a commuter school, and I had to pay for it. I didn't like it, but you know what? I grew the hell up. I did it. I got a job. I paid my tuition. I paid my fees. I paid my books. I had a car at the time. My dad paid insurance. I paid the monthly note on it. It taught me a huge lesson. I
Yeah.
need to depend on me. And if I want something, I need to go get it. And it taught me some consequences that if you mess up, then you got to deal with the ramifications of it. I had to leave the school. I was having a great time. And I think that was a big, a great choice on my parents' part. They knew better than I did. But we all have to suffer those consequences. I'm wondering if the mom has set it up for her son to understand consequences. I hear that he finished high school a year late, and she simply says he's not prepared to be an adult. Um, so the question is, what kind of lessons can the mom help teach the son at this point?
I mean, I think there's still a lot that can be taught. Now, he's an adult, but thinking scientifically, he's under the age of 24 and his prefrontal cortex is not fully developed.
He's like a 14-year-old.
Yeah, but he's big like a grown man and he can make money like a grown man.
He
So
does.
she needs to assert herself. This is what you will pay for certain bills. If you don't do it, then figure. And it's nice that she's talking to him about moving in with her cousin because that's
She
too many
said,
words for me.
she said, I recently asked, keyword asked him to live with my cousin, a male. Why would you ask him? Tell him to get the hell out. Get your
And
mail.
and that your cousin said you can stay there, but
Yep.
that's the
Tell
best
tell a
I
male
can do.
cousin to come on over, surprise his ass. That's what I would do. And get your stuff. As a matter of fact, get his stuff together while he's at work. Invite the male cousin over, and he knows what's up. And when your
Mhm.
son comes home, you tell him what's about to go down.
And then, don't just tell him, show him better than you can tell him. Have the locks changed in case he thinks he's going to pop back up
Okay.
later on in the
Why
middle of
would
the
you
night.
ask him? My parents didn't ask me jack when they said they were going to stop paying for school. They didn't ask me. They told me. And they told me that I'm going to have to pay for the rest of my college on my
Yeah.
own.
Well, I mean, you have to deal with the consequences of your actions. And if you don't start that early, the actions just get worse, and so do the consequences. So I remember, just telling our open disclosure and personal stories. At the end of my college career, I had a child. That's what happened. And I know there were other people who had babies and they went back home and their parents helped them take care of their
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
But I believe that my parents would have done it if I asked, but they certainly did not offer for me to come home. And so
Oh, okay.
instead, no, they just didn't
They
offer.
held their ground.
They didn't say no, but I never asked. They just never offered. And so I was probably afraid to ask. But instead I got all the government benefits I needed. I got help with child care and food stamps and
You
WIC
took
and
care of you.
all of that. I did. And eventually I had a full-time job with the state and benefits. I bought a townhouse. And I mean, I promise you, I've paid so many taxes that I've paid the government back for everything they gave to me. But
But you
at
earned
some
those
at some
resources.
point in my life, I just had to figure it out.
Yeah.
And it worked out. Everybody's great. I got through, I got the degree, I got three more degrees,
You sure
and I
did.
got a kid that's about to leave and go
But
to
you knew
college.
what to do in that situation. You didn't
Yeah.
ball up. You didn't run back to mom. These stories that I've heard, mom and dad, and of course they take care of you. I
Mhm.
haven't met your parents, but I believe they would have taken care of you.
They
They
would
didn't.
have if
They,
I
they didn't.
asked. They would have
They didn't
been.
offer, but you didn't go
Yeah.
back home, ball up, cry, and a year and a half later get pregnant again.
Right.
I've talked to those individuals, but your parents prepared you to figure out the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that this mom has done the same for this son.
Hmm.
From what she described, I think it would be great if she would be a little bit more assertive. Don't volunteer all the help. And Dr. Aisha and I shared with you our self disclosures about our young adult escapades. It wasn't easy working at the
Oh, it
mall
definitely wasn't.
and on a quarter system, paying $501 every 3 months, making 335 an hour. That's what it
Three
was.
thirty-five. And then what
Three
minimum wage was back. What was
thirty-five
that? Nineteen
an
fifty-two. Harrison
hour.
Lord.
And then I got a sales job in retail, and of course it went up, but I pulled it all together, and had to ask my friend. We still good friends now. One day in class, can I borrow $3 to put some gas in my car so I can make it to work? I mean, those were the days. I can't
Mhm.
imagine doing it now, but I did it when I was 20, 21 because I had to. You did what you had to do, to take care of you, to secure your future. Mama, in this letter, what are you going to do to make sure your son is not in the same position when he's 25, 30 years old?
What? So check this out. This just hit me.
Sure.
Because in the letter, she says that he tries to make her feel guilty. I wonder if she does just actually feel guilty. Because I
Yeah.
know, again, as a mother and a single mother, there are some things that happen that bring about some guilt.
Yeah.
And for her, she may have some feelings around his father not being there, around maybe not choosing the right man that she had a child with,
Yeah.
about maybe about what she didn't teach him. And this is how our minds work, that she didn't teach him his ABCs early enough. And that was the reason that he was a
Yeah.
year behind. Everything you start to think about everything you didn't do when your children make mistakes. And so, for that reason, I would say it might also be helpful for you, mom, to go get some therapy and work through whatever guilt and shame. I'm thinking there might be some shame too, whatever
Yeah.
guilt and shame you have inside.
Yeah. Because you're enabling this behavior.
Hmm.
That guilt, like Dr. Aisha said, may be fueling you running to the rescue of your grown son, and making his dinner and getting him DoorDash. Is that what I read? You
Yes,
know,
Door, and I've never used DoorDash, but I hear there's some extra fees
So
associated
at
with
one
that.
time, it was reasonable to use it. We used it a
Mhm.
lot during the pandemic.
Okay.
But now the fees cost more than a damn meal.
Oh no.
So but you did this, mom, and I guess that guilt and trying to help your son to have more than perhaps what you provided him, or perhaps have a better life than you. I don't know. I'm speculating. We got to take a second look at that and assess it. About what you're really doing, because all I'm hearing as Aisha and I are talking, you may be enabling your son to be like this. You're gonna have to become much more assertive and set those boundaries for your son. Otherwise, I guarantee he's going to be like a couple of other clients of mine. He's going to be 30 years old, still living in your house, not having good work ethic, not knowing how to take care of himself, running through women, or people, in relationships, and pretending like he's still a teenager because he knows that you're the safety net.
Yeah. Oh, check this out. I've seen even worse, where baby boy is still in the house when mom in his 30s,
Yep.
40s maybe, she passes away, he gets the house, but then eventually he loses the house too because he doesn't even
Da-
know how to pay taxes and
Damn.
keep the house up.
Damn.
So
Yep. Yep.
I
Yep.
mean,
I've had those clients. They're in their 20s. You know, they didn't know how to take care of their car. They didn't know about buying a car. And I asked them, trying to help them. You know, I'm trying to mentor them. Do you want me to call my mom right there in the middle of the session? I said, no. I no. I'm not going to talk to a grown man's mama. I want you to figure it out. So, mama, we could be sharing these stories with you so you can understand what might happen, that path that is before you and your son, if you don't make some drastic changes right now, some behavioral changes, and putting down some consequences might be great. You know, like Aisha and I just shared with you some consequences we had to go through as young adults based on some decisions that we made. You know, we made it through. We
Yeah.
did it. You know, I just happen to believe we built different than a lot of these other people that I
Hmm.
talk to. They fall apart, you know, when they make a C in a class.
Okay.
Whereas I was happy to get a C
I know.
sometimes. I was
I got.
happy.
I've had students harassing me about half a point, and an A is an A, and it's gonna
It,
still be an A.
it don't matter. That C was a passing grade.
Hmm.
So what I'm hearing, Aisha, you're suggesting that mom, you go to therapy, um, um, talk about your role as a mother, and what you want to teach your son. It would be great for you to think about all the resources that you might have. I hear you mention a cousin. He may be like an uncle figure to the son, but we're gonna have to put our foot down with some clear consequences. I mean, what's wrong if you don't cook him dinner, don't order him DoorDash, and then if he throws a temper tantrum, you put him out the house. It can be for the rest of the evening. It
I
can
mean,
be
that's
for
a
a couple
grown
of hours.
man.
That's
I'm
a
not saying you
grown
got to call
man.
the police on him,
Yep.
but you can make him
Tell him to come
leave.
back in a couple of hours.
Yeah.
That's what and he's 18, 19 with a job buying clothes and shoes. Why isn't he giving you a little something for the food that you're making him? Mama,
I
you did
imagine.
that.
I know. I'm imagining still that is, and that's why I don't want to blame. I still am thinking it has to do with guilt. One thing about that is you have this initial guilt that you're going to have to work on, and then you're going to have to be prepared to still deal with that guilt as things go on. If you put him out and he can't can't pay his bills, and he's like, I need you to give me some money, you'll feel guilty about not giving it to him when he could just pick up a part-time job. He's not in school, he could work two jobs. If he is out and if he's in his own place and he's eating spaghettios, you might feel guilty because you made steak at the house, but that's okay. You
My
push
mom and
past
dad would
that
have
too.
been fine. But they would have been fine. If I have to put my child out, they are not welcome to come back. Damn, SK.
Well, so
Damn.
that's a good point though. If you leave and something happens, you come back. But if I have
Yeah.
to put you out,
I
I
can
don't
see
know.
myself giving a grown child a second chance. You know, you want to leave for the weekend. You know, depending on
Oh well,
how
there you
old they
go.
are,
I do
or
that now.
you're gonna have to
I just
leave for
somewhere
a
to spend
couple
the
of
night.
hours. Are they grown? You know, you have to leave for a couple of hours when you cool down, then you can come back. You know, I can see that. But SK, you hardcore. You know, were you born in the 50s? Because you sound like you part of that generation. They will put their foot down. But we talked about mama and some of the suggestions that we have for who wrote the email to us. You know, boundaries, therapy, consequences. Teach your son
Mhm.
consequences. Ask yourself, where would he be if something happened to you? God forbid.
Right.
Anything could happen, and I hope nothing happens to you. But what if something happens to you? What the hell is your son going to do? Dr. Aisha just told the story of a son whose parents died and left him the house, and he lost the house that they helped pay for because he didn't know how to pay the taxes. He was not mature enough. Ask yourself, how have you prepared your son to live without you? Because he seems awfully attached to you. And SK says, I've sacrificed too much for my kids for them to push me to the point where I have to put them out. Okay, you hardcore. I see that. And here's one. Aisha, you can read it out.
All right, Julia says, I can now walk around. That's what I was thinking. I can now walk around like I want. Everyone's gone. Trying to put my wife out now. Don't- but Julius, you're saying something that I was thinking. At some point, I want the house to myself.
Yep.
I've even been talking about, when my child goes to college and the
Yep.
little one is still gone, to her dad's house whenever she's going. All this time, I'm gonna have to myself to do what I want
Yep.
to do, have whoever I want at my house, walk
You
around my house
deserve that
however I
free
want to.
time.
If you got a grown person in the house all the time, you gotta I just
Stressing
can't
you
do it.
out. You stress him out. You're
TV
the
up
mama.
all loud.
You the mama. You the parent. You stress him out. But you're gonna have to put on your big person britches
Hmm.
and put down your foot and be persistent with it. Some rules for the house. And he's gonna have to cough up something instead of buying those clothes and shoes. And the temper tantrums have got to go. You
Make
know,
it uncomfortable for
for him.
him. Don't you wash one piece of clothing. If he leaves a dirty dish in the kitchen, go ahead and take it to his room. Bring whoever you want to around there and do whatever you want to in your house. Don't cook him a piece of food. He is in hog heaven right now, it sounds like.
And don't worry if he's not eating, he's making money. He's not paying rent. If he can buy those clothes and shoes, then he can take his butt down to the fast food or to a restaurant.
Mhm.
He should bring you something back. As a matter of fact, you start doing that. That's what my dad used to start doing. Calling me, talking about pick him up something to eat. I said,
I do that now. I do that now.
you mom are now going to have to be the parent of a grown man. I think you became accustomed to being a parent of a kid and you helped him. I don't know the circumstances with school, but hallelujah, he graduated
Yes.
and now he's ready for the world. But you're gonna have to make some adjustments now. You're gonna have to talk to him like he's a grown man, treat him like a grown man, because when he goes out there into the real world and does those same things, imagine him throwing a tantrum on his job. Or in the mall?
No, okay, that's about to say, or in the middle of the street in public. I mean, you think you're scared now? Let your son throw a temper tantrum, and like Harrison said, in the middle of the mall. Aisha, you can come chill at my house if you want. I won't bother you. You won't.
SK, my parents taught me that two grown people can live in the house together if they are not married, and sometimes that's a challenge. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So Mama, who wrote the K, who wrote the email, I hope you're taking all of this in a good spirit. That is coming to you as we want you to be successful as a parent. And like Aisha said, you deserve your time. You
Mhm.
you don't need to be stressed out at this point, and for your son to stress you out, you put that on him. Make him make some tough decisions. But are you ready to be tough with your son? Or are you just going to throw your hands up? You
Okay, because
know,
girl, if it was me, I would take pictures of all of those shoes, and he'd look. All of a sudden, certain shoes would be missing. I have to sell them to pay his bills. Poshmark, eBay, whatever you need to do. If you want to spend your money on shoes, I'm gonna sell the shoes to pay your bills.
now that's hardcore right there.
Why? How? Well, they're in my house, and everything that's in my house belongs to me. I don't care who paid for it.
So let me give you a little tip also. I like that one. I like that one, Nisha. What I told a parent years ago with a 16 or 17-year-old daughter, surprise him when he comes home. Take everything out of his room, hire some movers, put it in the garage. If he wants to act like that, then he cannot be in your house, but he can certainly stay in the garage. I'm talking the bed, the dresser, the TV.
Ricky Smiley did that with his son. It was serious. It was on
I
TV and
suggested
everything.
this white couple, they were a little bit older, and I guess they had a kid later in life, and she was 16. She was running over them, called the mom a bitch,
Oh,
and in session, and asked me who the hell was I. I suggested that they put all her stuff out in the garage, and that's her room. Now, this was the springtime and
Mhm.
summertime, but sometimes you're going to have to shock them. You're going to have to do something. Like Aisha said, those shoes, pick them up without him looking and go sell them somewhere, take them somewhere. You're going to buy these shoes, but you're going to throw a tantrum in my house. That's the type of position I think you need to consider with your son. Perhaps warn him in advance so that he can have an opportunity to
Mhm.
make some chances, but you're going to have to follow up on it. And if
Yeah.
you need some help, call your cousin. Call
Right.
some call some brothers up, some of your brothers, some uncles. Hopefully they can talk to them. Call the pastor if you need to, but it would be great to have a therapist to help guide you with it. So that's some of the suggestions that I have for the mom before we start talking about the son.
Uh, that's all I got for you. Just make sure you take care of yourself because it sounds like it's extremely stressful for you, and he's not stressed out about it at all.
Yes,
So, so you need to be taking care of yourself.
I got a rule, a personal rule that I started years ago, decades ago. If somebody's going to be stressed out and it's a little arrangement that we have, whether it's friendship or relationship or working relationships, it ain't going to be me.
Mhm.
If somebody's going to be stressed out, it's going to be you. And you, mama, deserve to have some peace of mind right now. So, Aisha, what do you want to say to the son? He may not be listening. I don't know, but some of those other young men out there who are similar to this son. What can we say to them?
I am wondering what he's like in his relationships, if he has any relationships. If you don't have a relationship, this whole thing living at your mama's house, that's the reason. But if you do have a relationship, I worry that you are somebody's worst nightmare instead of their Prince Charming. And I feel sorry for whoever he or she is that's dealing with you.
The unfortunate thing is there are some young ladies out there who likes a guy like that.
Oh, I know.
They like that. He's carefree. He's not worried about anything. He has money to spend on her, on
Yeah, and every now
him.
and then he might buy them some matching shoes, and then she'll start calling them a husband.
And call him Bay.
Hmm.
Going over to mama's house trying to move in. Unfortunately, those people are there. But for the son and other young guys like that, you may not recognize where you are, but I think it'd be best after high school to come up with some type of plan. Living with your mama can't be the plan.
Mm-mm.
I know people make jokes about that, but that is a reality for a lot of people. I met some in their 20s, a couple of them in their 30s, and Aisha, you mentioned somebody in their 40s. Oh, hallelujah. What in the world?
With 5 kids. Yeah, 5 kids, 3 baby mamas. Stayed with your mom because you did have to pay child support for all those kids. And
This-
then let the house go.
So, what I would ask the son, what do you want to do? You have this arrangement. I can understand the benefits that you have, but it ain't your house, obviously. Your name is not on the deed, or it's not your apartment. What do you want to do? How are you going to work this out with your mom before you stress her out to the point where she actually puts you out? She already asked you to leave. I mean, how are you interpreting that? Your mom asked you to leave. Now she asked, you know.
I don't, Harrison and I both have to laugh at asking. Oh, okay. I mean, I just think it sounds like mom is very caring and loving.
Yes,
We always say enabling is not done with the purpose of hurting people. It's done out of love, but in the end, it does hurt worse. It causes more harm.
absolutely. So I'm trying to read through some of the comments that we have. We went through a lot of them. Here's one. Not with all single women. I have two sons and one daughter. I have raised them all to survive without me. Hallelujah.
Me too.
SK, if I'm glad you're sending that energy that's out there. And I may be a little biased, as I'm reading through this. I admit that because I'm just wondering what would have happened if the father played a stronger role in the son's life. He doesn't have to be there in the house, but I'm going to put some responsibility on the dad too. If you had to come around more often and providing some guidance to your son, then we may not have this situation. But we don't know what happened to the dad. But I do know that at this age, it becomes incredibly difficult to control a grown black man.
Well, she could always do like Jodie's mom did in Baby Boy and bring her new man, get a new man. Have you seen Baby
I
Boy?
remember. I remember. I had to go back. I was like,
You're like,
yes, with
okay.
Taraji and Tyrese.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And
Hmm.
so mom got her a new man and he didn't want that man in there. And that man was like, I don't care. The man was walking around naked. And when the boy got disrespectful, he got him in a headlock. And eventually, he had to grow up and leave because
Yep.
two
Yep.
grown men in the house, that wasn't going to happen. It was just not working.
So that's a good movie that you brought up, Baby Boy.
Hmm.
About a young black man
Ooh, because it's
struggling,
common, right? It's so
struggling.
common they made a whole movie about it.
They did, but way back when, you know, trying to adult and but mom, I know you're dealing with this. I know it's a little bit um stressful for you, but Dr. Aisha and I, provided you with a number of suggestions. I think a therapist would really help guide you in
Mhm.
making some of these tough decisions. You're gonna have to take and do something that can really help your son to get out of this situation. So you don't have to deal with this when he's 25. So you don't have to deal with this when he's 30 years old, 10 years later, and two or three kids,
That's what I was about to say. Make him start taking responsibility now, because the last thing you want is for him to. I mean, he won't even get up and pay a bill. I'm wonder if he would even put on a condom when he is with a woman, and then would you end up taking care of him and the baby?
yeah. So
Every first or third weekend, you got a baby at your house because he still doesn't have a place.
I'm assessing this guy as the mom described him. He's more like 14 emotionally
Hmm.
and making decisions like a 14-year-old. And 14-year-olds aren't typically known for being overly responsible. So to your point, I don't see him being careful, you know, if or when he's with a woman and practicing safe sex. I don't see that at all. He seems carefree. He don't give a damn. He got a safety net. He got someplace to lay his head. Somebody who's going to cook food for him. And when mama don't, he throws a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
So woof, think about that curse that he's going to continue if he has kids, and imagine him as a dad. Mm,
Okay. Well, and I have one more suggestion, and it's not
sure.
just because I like to always tell people about great books that are out that could help you. But there is a book called Set Boundaries, Find Peace, A Guide to Reclaiming Yourself by, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Nidra Glover. I can't pronounce her last name, Tawwab, because she has a book that a lot of people have read. It's a New York Times bestseller. But she also has a workbook. I've never actually read the book, but I've used the workbook a lot
So
with my
say the title again.
set boundaries, find peace, a guide to reclaiming yourself. And it was written by a black woman. I know a lot of black women who have used it. And as I said, myself and a lot of black female therapists use the workbook with our clients. So, I mean, I think it would be great for you to maybe get the book and the workbook, start working on that by yourself and with your therapist.
Absolutely. That's a great final word there. I don't even have anything else
Yeah.
to add to
Well,
that.
and she's a licensed therapist too. I need to put that out there because sometimes people just write books, but this author is actually a licensed therapist, so
So she's been
she's
trained and
valid.
educated
Hmm.
to know what the hell she's talking about.
Yep.
Because you're right, there's some folks out there, they don't know what they're talking about.
Okay.
But that's a great final word for today's show, Mom. I am so glad that Kay, that you sent us this email. I hope you heard us. We were a little bit lighthearted at times, and perhaps it sounds like we were beating you up, but we really were not.
No, we care
Um,
about you.
we do. I want you to be successful as a mom. We both want you to have your free, peaceful time, and
Hmm.
now is the time to have it. Because I don't know if this is your last child or your only child, but the one, if he's leaving the house, you deserve some of that peace of mind. It's just going to require you to make some tough decisions and follow through on some of those things. So that's my last word on. I think it was a great book that Dr. Aisha just suggested to us. So this has been wonderful. So
Yes.
guys, go ahead.
No, thank you all for your questions and your comments today. We appreciate it. Keep it up and invite your friends every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time now.
Absolutely. So you guys have been listening to Two Therapists and a Microphone. I am Dr. Harrison Davis.
And I'm Dr. Aisha Dickerson.
We will all see you guys next time.
Mhm.